Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode here at Whiteboard Medicine. We appreciate you checking it out. Hope everybody's having a good day today. The topic today is going to be a briefer one, but one that is of significant importance, right? This is a physiologic principle that finds its way into the clinical arena nonstop in emergency critical care medicine, and that is the physiology of VQ mismatch. You've probably heard this term thrown around, this phrase thrown around. You'll see it on tests. You'll encounter it in the clinical arena. You'll get asked about it on rounds, and it's important you have a great understanding of it. So in this episode, we're going to do a dive into the physiology of VQ mismatch. By the end, we hope you have a good grasp on this topic and can apply it to patient care. As always, none of this is intended to be acted upon as medical advice. Please access this disclaimer and read it in its entirety before moving on. All right, let's dive in. The big idea with VQ mismatch. So VQ mismatch is one of the important mechanisms of hypoxemia, right? This is a critical central mechanism that causes hypoxemia, low oxygen saturations. And the abbreviation, luckily, somewhat explains the issue. So the V in VQ mismatch stands for ventilation, and the Q in VQ mismatch stands for perfusion. The reason that this makes sense is because VQ mismatch is a mismatch of ventilation and perfusion. Ventilation being the air reaching the alveoli, right? And perfusion being the blood reaching the alveolar capillaries. Before we dive into this anymore, we should tell you, if you want this exact document, this exact study guide, this exact PDF that we're going through in this episode, it is available and downloadable within our Emergency Critical Care Patreon community. All of our more recent episodes, over, 100, 120 of them at this point, all have their study guides available for download in our Emergency Critical Care Patreon community. And that's, not all that's there. We've been really excited building this community. We have all the videos ad-free. We have mini courses, clinical reviews, ICU one-pagers, practice questions, medical education posts every other day related to emergency critical care medicine. We've been growing this community like mad, and we've been really excited. A ton of folks have joined. I think we have over 1,000 members at this point at the time of this recording. So if you want to check that out, we'd love to have you. We'll link it in the episode description as well as the pinned comment. Okay, back to the episode here. So VQ mismatch, right? If we're going to draw a little bad drawing, if you're listening to this in podcast version, we're not a good sketch artist, so you're not missing much. But you have a bronchial, right? This is O2 goes in, and then CO2 goes out, and it goes into this alveoli, right? This is the alveoli, the sac of air. This is where alveolus would be more accurate for one of them. This is the area where there's gas exchange, and there's capillaries coating the outside of this alveolus. Okay, so VQ mismatch is when there's mismatch between the air that is reaching the alveoli and the blood flow that is reaching the alveolus. All right, so it's mismatch between the air reaching the alveolus and the blood flow that reaches the alveolus. And for gas exchange to work, you need ventilation and perfusion to meet in the right proportions. So the core idea here is VQ mismatch happens when air and blood both reach the lungs, but they are not matched well enough for efficient gas exchange. This is different from hypoventilation. Hypoventilation is where there's just not enough air getting into the lungs overall. And it's different from a true shunt, where blood is reaching the alveoli, but there's pretty much no ventilation, okay? And we'll get more into that. VQ mismatch is when the ventilation and the perfusion are mismatched. And it's the most common cause of hypoxemia in clinical medicine. You'll see this all of the time. So normal VQ matching in a healthy adult is a ratio of about 0.8. The number matters less, but it's decent just to contextualize it in your brain. And the reason it's 0.8 is that not every part of the lung has a standard VQ match. The lung naturally has regional variation, and that's mostly because of gravity. Okay, if we draw a lung unit here, these are two lungs, here's your trachea, bronchi, right? There's going to be different perfusion and ventilation in different parts of the lung. And the lung bases tend to get the most perfusion and the most ventilation. Perfusion because of gravity, right? And ventilation is greatest at the lung bases. So as we move down the lung unit towards the bases, perfusion increases, but it increases more than ventilation. So your VQ ratio at the apex is higher, your ventilation perfusion ratio, and at the bases it is lower. And that's normal physiologically, okay? Problems arise when there's additional mismatch beyond this. So low VQ units, and this is the terminology used, and it can be a little confusing, but low VQ units, this is when there is too little ventilation for the amount of perfusion, low VQ. So sometimes I think of it like a coefficient like this, V on top, Q on bottom, and low VQ means too little ventilation for the amount of perfusion, if that makes sense. All right, so blood passes through the alveolar region, but it's not well ventilated, and as a result, blood leaving that region is lower in oxygen content. So let's just say you have pneumonia, and you have, all these kind of alveoli all right here, but you have pneumonia. So these alveoli kind of are full of pneumonia and pus and gunk. What's going to happen is these units are not going to get enough ventilation. You're not going to be able to get enough oxygen into the alveoli because those alveoli are full of kind of pus and pneumonia. But they're still getting blood flow, right? They're still getting perfusion. So you're going to have low VQ. You're going to have low ventilation to these units, but normal, perfusion to them. And that's going to be a VQ mismatch, a low VQ match. And you'll see this in anything that's going to cause inability to ventilate those alveoli. Asthma, because your bronchioles are constricted so you can't get gas to the alveoli. COPD, pneumonia, atelectasis, pulmonary edema, mucus plugging, aspiration, ARDS. All of these things affect the alveoli and does not allow those alveoli to get gas into them, but they're still getting perfusion. They're still getting blood flow. So you have a low VQ match. This is basically that there's not enough air for the amount of blood. Now, if the VQ match approaches 0, that is when you call it a shunt. That's literally the only difference. So let's say that these alveoli were so diseased that they were literally getting no gas in them at all, right? There's no gas getting in them. The gas all stopped here. Nothing is getting into the alveoli, and they're still getting blood flow. That would be a shunt, right? The VQ match would be 0. There'd be no ventilation at all for the perfusion that unit is getting. So clinical example of a low VQ, low ventilation with normal perfusion. Pneumonia, as we said, alveoli may fill with inflammatory fluid, but perfusion continues. So ventilation is impaired, but perfusion continues. So blood leaving that region remains poorly oxygenated, and it mixes with better oxygenated blood from other healthier lung regions, but this leads to a low VQ. Okay, what about high VQ units? This is still mismatched, but high VQ is that there's too much ventilation for the amount of perfusion. Again, draw this coefficient V on top, Q on the bottom, and it's high VQ. So high ventilation for the amount of perfusion. Air reaches the alveoli, but blood flow is reduced. Let's think of a pulmonary embolus, right? We're going to draw an alveoli, and we'll draw a capillary, but that capillary is going to be connected to larger blood vessels, right? And if that blood vessel is clotted, right, there's a pulmonary embolism, well, there's not going to actually be blood flow to that capillary, right, because there's a pulmonary embolism that is clotting and obstructing blood flow to the capillaries. But this alveoli is still getting oxygen coming in when you take a breath, but it can't get into the capillary because there's no blood flow in the capillary. So it's high ventilation but low perfusion, a high VQ unit. All right, and that's things like pulmonary embolism, low cardiac output if you're literally not perfusing those alveoli. Overdistended alveoli from excessive PEEP can press down on the capillaries and collapse it so it doesn't get blood flow, all that good stuff. So high VQ is basically not enough blood for the amount of air. High ventilation, low perfusion. If the VQ approaches infinity, this would be considered dead space, right? That essentially means that there is no blood flow. It's just dead space. There's air going in and out, but there's no blood flow at all. So a clinical example of high VQ mismatch, high ventilation for the amount of perfusion, as we said, is a pulmonary embolism. And in a pulmonary embolism, ventilation may still reach the affected lung region, but perfusion is blocked. So the region continues too little oxygen uptake because there's not enough blood flow available to receive that oxygen. VQ mismatch and hypoxemia. Hopefully you're starting to catch on to this, but just to say it out loud, VQ mismatch causes hypoxemia because blood leaving different lung units has different amounts of oxygen content. Some units, oxygenate the blood well. Some units oxygenate the blood poorly. The final arterial blood is a mixture of all those different lung units. So the poorly oxygenated blood lowers the overall arterial oxygen content. But does this respond to supplemental oxygen? And this is something, again, that's important for the clinical arena, but also shows up on tests, certainly. So VQ mismatch does tend to improve with supplemental oxygen. That's one of the big distinguishing features here between VQ mismatch and pure shunt. So in low VQ, right, if we draw the coefficient V on top, Q on the bottom, low VQ, that means there's low ventilation for the amount of perfusion. Giving oxygen increases the alveolar oxygen tension in these partially ventilated young lung units. So again, you have an alveolus, maybe you have some pneumonia in there. So let's say at room air, 21% FiO2, that's room air, you maybe are getting, let's say you're getting 2 oxygen units in there. But if we increase the amount of inspired oxygen, and we go up 5x to 100%, instead of 2, you're going to get 10 oxygens in there, and that's going to improve the arterial oxygen tension in these units, which is going to improve the oxygenation. So VQ mismatch often improves with oxygen. True shunt would not improve, right? Because in true shunt, we said there is no ventilation, right? This is totally full of pus, so no air is getting in at all. So you can make this 2 oxygen in the bronchial, you can make it 10, you can make it 20, 1 million oxygen in the bronchial, but nothing's getting into the alveoli. So there's no oxygen going into the capillaries around that alveoli. Okay, so true shunt responds poorly to oxygen. Hypoventilation usually improves with oxygen. Diffusion limitation usually improves with oxygen as well. Not perfect at the bedside, but useful to at least think about. What about carbon dioxide? So we said VQ mismatch causes hypoxemia, but does it cause alterations in carbon dioxide levels? It can affect CO2 clearance, but CO2 behaves differently than oxygen. CO2 diffuses very readily. It crosses that barrier very readily. And its blood content relationship is much more linear. So patients can usually compensate for VQ abnormalities by increasing their minute ventilation, and you don't see that much derangement in CO2 levels with VQ mismatch. So you usually see a low PaO2, right? You're hypoxemic, your oxygen's low, but usually your PaCO2 is normal, or maybe a little bit low. Now, if the patient has severe COPD or they're getting too tired with their breathing, obviously that'll change things, but for true, just pure VQ mismatch, CO2 is usually not severely affected. Just to shout it out again, shunt, dead space, and VQ mismatch. We have a whole different episode out on shunt and comparing shunt to VQ mismatch. So just search that Whiteboard Medicine shunt and it should pop up if you want to dive into that. But just to say it out loud again, shunt is a VQ mismatch ratio of 0, right? There is no ventilation to the units being perfused. So without any ventilation, it doesn't matter if you increase oxygen or not. None of that oxygen is getting into the alveoli to get get absorbed into the arterial system, right? So it's no ventilation, and that's complete atelectasis. You have complete lobar collapse, alveolars filled with blood or pus or edema, and then a true cardiac shunt as well. All right. Dead space is when the VQ is infinity, right? You are ventilating aggressively, but you have absolutely no blood flow to the area. Ventilation is present, but perfusion is absent. So again, you can breathe as much more as you want, but it's dead space. There's no blood flow to the area to actually exchange gas, right? Bad PEs, low flow states, overdistended alveoli. Whereas VQ mismatch is between these extremes. You have some ventilation, you have some perfusion, but it's just mismatched. And that's why it goes up when you give supplemental oxygen. The hypoxemia improves because you're just increasing the amount of oxygen tension. So again, towards the end, take-home points and practice questions. VQ mismatch is inefficient matching between alveolar ventilation and pulmonary perfusion. Low VQ, low ventilation for the amount of perfusion is too little air for the amount of blood. High VQ is high ventilation with too little perfusion, means too little blood for the amount of air. VQ mismatch usually improves with supplemental oxygen. Low VQ affects oxygenation more than healthy lung units can compensate for. We didn't talk about the AA gradient because we have a whole separate episode on AA gradient, so you can definitely check that out. A shunt is a VQ of 0. Dead space is a VQ of infinity. And most real cardiopulmonary diseases is a messy mix of all sorts of these things. All right. 3 practice questions to see if we learned anything that everybody could go about enjoying their day. When we do practice questions, if you haven't with us, we'll read the question, read the answer option, and then we'll dive right into the answers. So if you need more time to think about it, just make sure you pause the episode. And we usually have a beginning, intermediate, and advanced level question. Beginner question number 1. Which statement best describes VQ mismatch? A, complete absence of ventilation to all lung units. B, complete absence of perfusion to all lung units. C, inefficient matching between alveolar ventilation and pulmonary perfusion. Or D, normal gas exchange with isolated low hemoglobin. Pause if you need to. The correct answer is C, inefficient matching between alveolar ventilation and pulmonary perfusion. Remember, it's that mismatch. Whereas complete absence of ventilation and complete absence of perfusion are going to be shunt and dead space, right? Inefficient matching is VQ mismatch. Question 2. A patient with pneumonia has alveoli filled with inflammatory fluid. Blood continues to flow through the affected lung region, but ventilation is reduced. Which VQ pattern best describes the physiology? Low VQ, high VQ, pure dead space, or normal VQ? Pause if you need to. The correct answer is A, low VQ. Remember, low VQ, if you make the ratio low ventilation for the amount of perfusion, because your alveoli are filled with pus, so you cannot ventilate them, it's not affecting the blood flow at all. All right, last question. Why can healthy young units not fully compensate for severely low VQ units? This is a little more advanced, but let's see if anyone gets it. A, hemoglobin leaving healthy alveoli is already nearly saturated. B, CO2 cannot diffuse across normal alveoli. C, high VQ units always become true shunts. Or D, supplemental oxygen lowers alveolar oxygen tension. Pause if you need to. The correct answer is A, hemoglobin leaving healthy alveoli is already nearly saturated. So this is key, right? If you increase the FiO2, the alveoli that already have a good VQ match, the healthy portions, their hemoglobin's already fairly saturated. So they can't hypercompensate for the low VQ portions of the lung because their hemoglobin's already pretty saturated. All right, that's all we have for you today. Short and sweet and to the point. Critical concept. Let us know what thoughts, comments, questions you have down below. Check out that Patreon community if you have an interest. Actually, at the end of this episode, we'll put a little video where we deep dive into some of the Patreon stuff if you want to see it. We also have YouTube members community, which is awesome. So consider joining that if you'd like. Either way, though, stay well, keep learning, and we sure could borrow a quick 60 seconds of your time. I wanted to introduce you to a community we're really excited about building, and that is our Patreon community. In this community, you will get access to high-yield medical education posts, ad-free videos, study guides, practice questions, mini courses, book chapters, and much more. You will see that by joining this community, you will get access to the PDFs, the study guides for every single YouTube video. Here's an example of one of those right now. In addition to that, you will get access to mini courses. In these courses, we will have videos, study guides, practice questions, bedside tips and tricks, and 30 practice questions at the end to test your knowledge. In addition to that, we have collections on every major emergency critical care topic that contains videos, medical education posts, practice questions, study guides, all categorized. And lastly, we have book chapters. These book chapters are high-yield clinical reviews, such as this one on the basics of mechanical ventilation. Beyond that, we have ad-free videos, we have practice questions, and we are constantly innovating and integrating new resources for you all. If you have a passion for emergency critical care medicine like us, consider joining this community today. In it, we hope that you will find all the resources necessary to push your knowledge to the next level and really improve the bedside care of these critically ill patients.